Hello, good evening, and welcome to a live tea room on a Thursday night. Hope everybody is okay. Let me first of all introduce the panel. We have, as normal, on my left-hand side, Palm. Good evening, Palm.
Good evening, John. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're having a magnificent evening.
A bit cold, I will tell you. Aye.
Yeah, I know.
And over in sunny Barcelona is Andy. Hello, Andy. How are you doing?
Hey, mate. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, it's not too cold here, so I won't rub it in too much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, right. And tonight we have a very special guest. We have Hamish from the Watch Collectors Club. Hello, Hamish, and good evening, sir.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good. How you doing, Hamish?
Yeah, good, thank you. Excited to be here.
Welcome.
Excellent. Okay, so let's just
Right. So what should we do? What we'll do is have a wrist check, actually. And as our guest, Hamish, you get to go first. What's on the wrist?
Today I've been wearing my Seiko Alpinist Ginza Special Edition. So,
Very nice.
Very nice.
Year.
Dial looks pretty cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Seiko Ginza.
I can talk about it a bit later, but yeah, it's the dial based on the wet cobblestones outside of their store 140 years ago.
Very cool.
Well, there you go.
Wow, that'll make an interesting
Specific.
story. I look forward to that one.
So, Johnny, surprise us.
Oh, right, okay. I've got Christopher Ward on tonight.
Ah,
I've got
Hey.
my blue sapphire Christopher Ward that I pulled out of the box a couple of days ago and just kind of left it on because it felt about right. Yeah, it's all right. Good watch. Excellent watch. Yes.
Steel Sports. Andy,
Yeah.
are you going Steel Sports? Are you going to? Actually, I might go
of
next
course
then. I might go next.
Yeah, you go
actually,
next.
because
Yeah, keep the theme, man.
yeah, I have stainless steel Sports Explorer 1 39 millimeter 214270.
Very nice. Very nice.
Stay. Go on, Andy.
All right, then. Yeah, I'm keeping it classy, so I'm wearing the 70s tank. There we go.
Oh yeah, while it still exists in your collection, yeah, very nice.
It's still
very
there,
nice.
Yep.
Yeah,
Not a robot yet,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it?
While it's still there.
Not yet.
Hasn't turned into a robot.
If anyone wants to know about
not
the
yet.
robot, please look at the last stream from Tuesday, and then message Andy to tell him to give his head a wobble.
Yeah, the
There you
Wacky Watches episode that was on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Right, let me just go through and see who's in the room, shall we? Chili Badger looks good tonight. Ticker's looking forward as always. Thank you, Chili. Chili's on the admin tonight, and Ian's messaged me that he's going to be keeping an eye on it as well, so that'll be good.
Excellent.
Whole milk, TNT FXD. No FXD tonight for you, whole milk. Sorry, I'll bring it out just for you next time. Okay, where we are? Matt H. Good evening, all. Voted. Good evening, Matt. Ray Harrison. Evening, guys. Dan. Hello, Dan. Hey up. Okay. That's about it. Excellent.
Right, okay. So, without further ado, let us speak to our very special guest, Hamish from Watch Collectors Club in London. And there we go. So, in the usual order, Johnny, would you like to ask your first question?
Yes. Good evening, Hamish. How did you form the Watch Collectors Club, please? Can you tell us how you your watch journey and how you actually got there, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd love to. So I started collecting about 9 years ago, just on a whim, really. I'd always worn a watch. And then in my late 20s, I sort of started looking online, made my first purchase off eBay of a steel time-only vintage JLC, and well and truly caught the bug. And then I moved down to London because of work, and in my office, a nice bloke spotted a vintage JLC on my wrist and started asking questions about it. We became friends, and he said, "Have you ever been to a watch meetup?" And I said, "No, what's that?" So we went along to Time for a Pint here in London, and I discovered the world of watch meetups. But that guy, Ed, who's now my business partner, and I, we wanted something different from watch events. and we thought we should create our own. So essentially, we've created the Watch Collectors Club to create more varied watch events, and also to add something a little bit extra, which is to add education to those events, so that everybody who goes can really get something from it, whether they're just starting out in the watch world, they're just interested, they haven't even bought their first watch yet, or they've been collecting for years. Everyone who comes down is going to hopefully have a great time on the night, but also learn a little bit. So even if they're experienced, maybe they'll see a watch they haven't seen before. That's the beauty of a meetup for experienced collectors. And if they're new, or if they're just building their collection, then hopefully we can point them to something they haven't thought of before, give them a bit of background into some area of the watch world that we've chosen to cover that night. And so that's where we are. We've been going just over 2 years. We did a few events pre-pandemic as tests, and then we had to wait to get restarted with the in-person events. But since we restarted the end of 2021, we've done 26 in-person events, I think, 22 of which were this year.
Excellent. Is this a full-time thing for you? Are you still jogged up in London, or is it actually a full-time thing you're doing now? What?
Yeah, it's full-time for me now. So I was well and truly fed up of my previous career, and the pandemic was the final nail in the coffin. So I decided I needed a new career and fancied starting my own business, building something, my own tendons and brain, and this is it. So this is what I'm building. It's been slow and steady, but we're really excited about what's coming, and 2023 especially.
Wow, that's excellent, Nat. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so Hamish, the thing that stood out to me about Watch Collectors Club was I signed up to it a few months back, and the emails you send with all the information, and there's a lot going on. So if anyone wants to join Watch Collectors Club, we'll drop the link a bit later on. But the information that comes in your emails are actually quite educational. There's events that were going on. I mean, with the pandemic, probably with weather as well. Sometimes things can't go ahead as planned, but it stood out to me as it wasn't just a come and join us here. It was a very much here's the history of the chronograph, or here's about Breitling, and then by the way, we have a meet at Breitling, which was again, I missed that one, but was really educational and informative. To set up in London, I mean, I'm wondering what challenges you face. So my questions are normally about 2-3 fold. So the challenges you face setting up a new Watch Collectors Club. I mean, being based in London, I suppose, is there much competition at the moment? Because I think Red Bar don't really operate too much in London. How much of a challenge has it been to get all that information together and put it in a format to publish it, to make it informative and educational, which I confirm 100% that it is? And what would you like? Where is this? Do you see yourself now, 2 years on, where you thought you'd be in 2 years?
Okay, good set of questions. So the challenges have been more on the persuading the retailers to work with us. In terms of the content, the whole dream of the club and our vision is that we make it really accessible, because so much of the watch world is either exclusive or just not really focused on making themselves accessible. They focus on terminology, or they focus on the brand heritage, or they're just really enthusiastic and excited watch people, and they don't realize that the language they're talking in is often going over people's heads. And it's often only because of their passion or their enthusiasm for the brand and the watches that they miss that. So everything we've tried to do has this focus of accessibility, and hopefully as we grow and we dive into ever more niche areas of the watch world, we'll be able to continue that, so we can help anyone follow their passion and their interests, but with that same approach. And we think that by doing that, we can appeal to the widest number of people and remove a lot of the stigma. So whether it's the stigma of luxury, that, oh, that brand's too much for me, I don't have the right, they won't want me to go there and learn about it. We want to remove that. We want to say it's okay. These brands, these watches are amazing. You might never have one in your collection, but it's completely okay to come along with us and learn about them. And also just that, removing if someone is really passionate about the technology and they want to talk about some of the intricacies of a watch movement, they're very welcome too. But let's help them translate some of their passion, their knowledge, and make it easier for other people to understand. So in terms of the content we've producing, everything comes from that lens. And so when I research a blog post or I research for the talks we give, it's how can I find the great stuff that's already out there, and bring it into a short, accessible, digestible thing for people to understand. And of course, for the more experienced people, a lot of what we write, they may have read already, but we try and put a bit more of an interesting, a different slant on it, or just keep it really simple so that people are reminded of what they might have forgotten long ago. Like tomorrow's blog post is about shock resistance, like what is a shock resisting movement. And just adding that little bit of context to when you see that, when you're looking at watches, can be really helpful for people. In terms of being in London, the established meetup Time for a Pint, which I always like to give a shout out to because it's a phenomenal watch meetup. It's kind of more focused on vintage collecting, but there's some incredible collectors there with incredible collections, and they're very, very friendly. So I always point people that way. It's a huge inspiration, and I still attend every so often. And I know Chris Mann, who runs it very well. And I don't see them as competitors. I see us as complementary to them, because Chris is doing his thing in the way that he wants to. He's not going to go and try and organize an event with Breitling to go and look at new Breitlings. That's not where his interest lies. So we are really excited to do that, though, because I'm really excited about what Breitling are doing now as much as I am about the vintage Breitling I own and their history. And so I want to also do that for everyone. So I want to, living in a city like London where we have literally hundreds of watch stores, there's over 100 watch stores in London. So we can use that. We can use all of that inventory that they want to sell to go and learn more about what we like. And we can then decide more about what we're going to buy next. And we can gain in confidence if we're looking for a new watch, whatever that type of watch is, because we're lucky enough to be in London. However, we're not going to stay in London. As we grow and as we find people who want to do events outside of London, we'll be more than happy to put on events there. We did one in Birmingham in September, which was great, with Bremont. But obviously it's a sort of demand thing. We'll wait so that when people tell us we want to go do stuff elsewhere, we'll go and try and help them put something on, or if the retailers want to work with us elsewhere, that would be pretty awesome as well. Does that answer the question? The biggest challenge right now is telling our story. Like, what are we trying to do? Like telling a lot of people don't even know watch meetups are a thing, right? So
yeah.
The biggest challenge I have every day is how can I help more people understand that you can go and have fun about watches, and it's not going to be boring or weird or scary, or you can just come and talk about watches for like a good percentage of the time and talk about other stuff, but you're going to have a good night.
That's great. And just one thing, again, getting people used to coming to watch meets. What's your special USP there? Because I mean, 2-3 years of pandemic and stuff, people have not been going. I mean, everyone's going out now all the time. But what would you think would be the best way to get everyone off their asses and off the sofas, off YouTube, watching us, of course, and obviously don't go while the show's on.
Yeah.
But what do you think is the best way to do that? Off a beer, or
I think what we say is the whole thing is about trying watches on. So if you like watches, you like it because it's this wonderful thing on your wrist, and wherever your passion comes from, whether it's the design, the materials, the brand, the history, the style, the technology, like you get that pleasure from choosing to wear it on a given day or for a given occasion. And what's really wonderful about going to watch events in person and meeting other watch lovers or seeing the watches that they bring along is appreciating how many more watches there are that will give you pleasure, whatever you're into. So even if you are quite specific in your own taste, and we've had this multiple times already, we've had people go along who really know their taste. I mean, they're either very big collectors or still just starting out, but they're like, this is my thing, this is my brand and my style. And then they see something they didn't know existed, and they try it on, and they're like, gosh, I never knew I'd like the feeling of that on my wrist. And then they hear the story, or they hear the passion of the person whose watch that is, and then that adds to it, of course. Not every time, not everyone's going to click, but it's that really. It's if you come to our watch event, we will pretty much guarantee you'll see a watch you've never seen before. Because we thought even with only a handful of people coming to the first ones, that was still true. People bring along watches and you're like, well, I've never seen one of those. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to help, connect you with other people, or we're going to help you learn something. So even if you're quite shy and you just want to keep yourself to yourself, there's going to be a couple of talks during that evening where you might learn something. So that's our other promise. Is we're not expecting everyone to come along and be the life and soul of the party. And so we're going to make sure that in that event that happens as well, so that everybody gets something out of it.
Okay.
Great answer. Thank you very much. Yep.
I've got a bit of a double question. First of all, I take it that you do it similar to Red Bar, that you don't announce where the meet is going to be until the night via an email, obviously for security. So is it a different place every time? And roughly, how many people in attendance? Roughly, is it once a month? Is it you have it?
Yes, so we've done a whole mix. So we try and do the general meetups once a month, and we'll continue that forever. And if demand grows, we'll do it more than once a month. We've done the retailer events are additional to that. So from now on, any retailer events we do, or even if it's not a retailer, if it's another third party, any of those events will be additional to the general meetups. We've also did our first event solely for ladies, and we did that in October. It was a great success. We're doing it in January. For all the meetups that we've organised, yes, we give out the location the day before.
Yeah.
And we do our best to make sure we're in a private room or a private area, so it's very clear, and obviously that little bit more secure. Obviously, it's a huge concern for us. And we'll see what happens as we grow. There's a few ideas I have to continue to make it even more secure. If we get quite big and our events get a bit bigger, then there's some obvious venues you'd step into that might be a little bit more expensive for us, which is our problem, but will then hopefully let people feel more confident on the security. I don't think there's any reason not to, but that's what we're very aware of it. And then in terms of numbers, we're really pleased with how the year went. So we ended the year with over 20 people at each of our last few events. As the mailing list has grown, as our regular members and guests have grown, and we're really comfortable with that number. So part of what 2023 is going to be about and exciting is hopefully testing even bigger events and seeing how they work, and different kinds of event again. So we've tried a few different kinds of events, so going smaller, so it's more intimate, which worked really well, unsurprisingly, because if there's only a handful of you, then the conversation, the time on wrist is really, really high. But if we get a bit bigger, we'll see how those work. The largest event we did was the James Bond event with Watches of Switzerland, and that was really fun. But we had all their staff there as well, so it was a really busy room. But it was really, really fun.
And most of them in central London, easier to commute, on the tube line and stuff like that. Are they quite central London?
Yeah. I mean, they've all been in Zone 1, so far.
Yeah, that's cool. Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Andy.
Yeah. So from my side, I see. Well, I'll come back to maybe one question, but just to diverse a little bit. So from my side, I see on your website, there's quite a lot of depth within the blogging side. So you see, as you expand and grow, being more as well as having the community and the meets, but is that something you're really interested in developing, being more of a digital magazine as well for education online?
Yeah. So what we want to do is, if this went perfectly and was a staggeringly large success, then I would plow a huge amount of the revenue we earn into watch educational resources to the largest possible extent. So when I was really mapping out what this could be in the long term, when we first got started, I thought about building for members, which would be behind the paywall, a really, really in-depth watch encyclopedia. And the reason I want to do that is because the information about the watch world is so fragmented, and its fragmentation is a huge problem for people to learn from. The fact that so much of the detail in most niches is buried in forum posts or at best copied out of forum posts into blog posts and retailer magazine articles. That is a huge problem in a world where Google only ever gets worse. So that is a huge ambition of mine. What's interesting is we're not going to build that at huge cost if nobody actually wants to pay us for it, very simply. So we're going to build it as we learn what people really want us to focus on. And I think the start will be the focus on understanding and helping people understand and helping people learn. Because I'll give you a really good example. In one of our test events, so pre-pandemic test event, the talk idea we had was, what is a chronometer? Right, so what does chronometer rated mean? And so we gave the talk, it was only like 6 or 7 minutes, explaining how chronometer testing works and what the point of it is, and how, if you've got a chronometer, right, from Switzerland. And on that night, there was about 16 or so people had Swiss watches with them, and about 12 of those were chronometer rated. And most of the people came up to us afterwards and said, I never knew that. I never knew that's why they'd written that on my watch. And that is the level of a lot of watch enthusiasts. And it doesn't mean that they're stupid. It just means that their enthusiasm comes from a different place. And so when you then say, you've got a really great watch there, would you like to learn a lot more about the thing you've already bought? People say yes. So I think that's where we'll start. If, on the other hand, we actually go through 2023 and we get to the end of 2023 and we've got a load of people who say, Hamish, actually we're really passionate about Breitling, and we've really loved the Breitling events you've done. Why haven't you put more of that content that you've done at the events on the website? Then I'll say, well, this is precisely the feedback I'd like. You tell me, and I'll put a really definitive history of Breitling on the website as best I can. And I don't need to make anything up, right, with these bigger brands. I don't need to pretend I'm the source. I can credit sources. The key is putting it in the same place and making it clear why you think it's accurate. So one of the other things you'll see in some of our blog posts, and certainly I've said a bit more in the talks, because when I'm doing the talks, I can obviously be a bit more free-flowing than I can be in print. But I will mention where certain facts are a bit more hazy.
Okay.
And it helps people understand why those facts are a bit more hazy, what the brands have done with some of these data points in their own histories. I don't want to cause any controversy right now, but when you're presenting that and when we put it in our content later, we can be quite clear about that. And especially if it's a really trusted information source that we've built up with our saying, look, we're here to help you understand. Please just ask further questions and then we'll help find the answer to that question. That's the goal on the content side in the long run.
Okay. Wow, no, that's brilliant. And probably a follow-up question, because I can appreciate how long it takes to create this, is do you have more, a team behind that? Or is it just yourself and your business partner at the moment who's producing the blogs? Or do you have a team of writers who are helping? Or is that, again, something you'd planned?
It's just us.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and the fun bit is I really enjoy it, especially doing the talks. Yep. And hopefully you'll make it along to an event soon, see a talk, or we'll record some more of them. But yeah, it's really part of the reason I'm so excited to do this, is because I'm enjoying, especially the event side and putting together this content. And the Breitling event was really funny because I had to get it past their marketing department, and their marketing department got more nervous as we got closer and closer to the event. So they ended up insisting I send them a script. So I did, and then they obviously got it and passed it to some Breitling expert in Switzerland. And what came back from Switzerland was just exactly my script with like additional facts on it.
Nice.
It was perfect. It was so good of them. And then I delivered it, and and some of the guys from one of the big Breitling who run one of the big Breitling groups on Facebook were down, and they were just like, you know, how do you remember all that? And I was like, well, I really like Breitling, and I really enjoy, you know, talking about the history of Breitling chronographs, and the privilege of being able to do it in Breitling is just an added layer of excitement, you know. And so we, you know, just really enjoyed it, and Breitling really, the feedback was excellent as well. So we've got the next event with Breitling is tentatively in the diary for February, you know. So it's just keeping building this. So we all win. Breitling win. The people who come win. I enjoy it, and then I have that talk. I can do that talk again tomorrow if I need to.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Nice, yeah. John, do you have another question?
I haven't got any more questions actually. I was gonna ask him to show us some of his watches if he's got some there, please. I'm quite interested in that military one that he mentioned. He's got a dirty dozen.
Okay, we'll do that later on. Sorry,
We'll do
Hamish.
that later
We'll
on.
just go through.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions, so
You've got a
we'll go
couple
through
of
the questions
right,
on Watch
okay.
Collectors Club first, and then we'll do the.
Problem is, the dirty dozen watch is not next to me.
Okay. Ooh.
Not easy to get to. Sorry.
Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, go on. Carry on with the questions. That's
Okay.
fine.
Right. So, in terms of the events you do, they sound like they're getting well attended. The word's getting out there. I mean, I'm intended to go. It sounds very good. I'm sure it is very good from the photos on Instagram and the things you publish as well. It all looks like a really good and well set up and run club. So in terms of the events you've had, what has been okay, there's three parts again. What has been your favorite event? In the future, what would be your perfect event, you know, and how far off that are you? And then going completely dreamland, what is your dream event?
You know, I haven't thought about any of those questions before.
Wow, excellent.
How about now? Go for it. This is the
go
first.
for it. Yeah, that's brilliant. Brilliant questions. Pal.
So your favorite event so far?
Favorite event was the ladies' event, because we thought that was the ballsiest thing to do, to just have two blokes be like, right, ladies, loads of ladies like watchers. They're massively underrepresented in the industry. They're far less confident in following, being open about this as a passion. Who knows who's going to come along? Will new people come along, and will it work at all? And it worked so well. And then I was really nervous because I thought, well, how am I going to talk about? I can't think of anything topical to talk about, and I don't want to repeat one. I thought, I'll just do the obvious and give a history of ladies' watches. And I said at the start of the talk, you know, this is the first flat out history talk I've done. I've got no visuals, I've got no notes. I'm just going to go for it, and it went down really well. And so that, I think, was my absolute favorite of the year. Swiftly followed by the James Bond event, which was a joint event with Watches of Switzerland and their member of staff who's Britain's largest James Bond collector. And so it was just really different. It was like,
wow, I didn't know about that. Wow, crikey.
Nothing like I expected to do. And it was so much fun because he and some of their other staff dressed up. He brought in loads of his props. He brought in his James Bond watches. We had all the new Omega watches. Wow. Omega, via Watches of Switzerland, decided that we should have a full Bollinger champagne reception, which they told me about, and I was like, well, I didn't ask for that, but great. But then the funniest bit about that was they didn't have any other drinks. You could have champagne or water, which was like so random.
Wow. James Bond. Yeah. No martinis.
Wow.
No, and so it was just a really, really varied event, and everyone had a really good time because we talked about James Bond's watches, or I talked about James Bond's watches. Then I talked about the Omegas, and then we talked to Luke about his collecting and his how and why he got into it. So it's just a really different event. Perfect event. You know, my perfect event is the event we are going to run, but it's probably not going to be 2023, which is a British watch fair.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a day, and it's not going to be like, we want to make sure it's our kind of watch show. So first of all, it's going to be probably up north, where no one ever has watch shows. Second of all, it's going to be just as educational as everything else we do. And third of all, we want to really help everyone understand what's going on in British watchmaking and British watch design right now. And we know that demand for that is huge. And that would be, if we can pull that off whenever it is, I would be absolutely delighted. But it's more looking like it's going to be 2024 just for everything we've got going on and relationships to build. But the demand for an interest in British watchmaking is amazing. It has totally taken me by surprise, but I love it because there's so much going on, and it's quite right. It's entirely justified. The history is there, the heritage is there, and the enthusiasm and skills of the people currently involved in all the different kinds of watch company we've got now in the UK. It's just so exciting.
Wow. So that's about a year and a half away, you reckon? Maybe a bit more or less or something like that anyway. 2024.
This year we're going to focus on launching the membership to get a paid membership up and running. And so if a watch fair is probably going to have to be next year, yeah.
Okay. And then the dream event, all the gloves are off. You're now in Dreamland and you've organized an event. What does that look like?
It's me. I mean, the absolute dream is me standing in Rolex using their archive pieces.
Okay.
So one of the many, many thousands of mysteries of Rolex is why they don't have a museum. And and so my absolute dream, no barriers to anything, would be helping some people who really want to learn a little bit more about Rolex, which was an amazing company, and actually getting to go there and use their archive, which is huge, to tell those stories and help people learn more about an amazing brand and amazing watches. The probability of that happening is low. But
well, this is Dreamland. You're in Dreamland now, so it's 100% possible in Dreamland. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Andy, do you have a question?
Yeah, just maybe one more just to round up then. What's the end goal? What's the if I was to say, where would you want to see the Watch Collectors Club in 10 years' time? Would you want it to be like a global club with different hubs operating a bit, I guess, similar in a sense to Red Bar, but obviously it operates in a different sense? But yeah, what's the dream vision for the end?
Yeah, absolutely. So global club, huge online presence. I mean, I haven't mentioned our online events, which have been very small. The watch world has gone online, and it's gone online mostly in forums first and then via YouTube, which is amazing because it is bringing so many watch people together, and everyone finds their channel, and you guys do, people like you are really treading your path. But I think we can take it the next level and do full online events, precisely so that people who don't live anywhere near a watch store or a watch meetup can talk to each other about watches and share their passion. And I then want to follow that demand with meetups, because meetups really are easy to do when you're actually there, if you find the right people and you do them the right way. And I think there's no reason it can't be a global thing under the same banner. And then if we make it work with watches, we'll hopefully transfer it to other categories as well, where people have deep and abiding passion, but there isn't really much support for the collecting community other than dealers and trade shows. There isn't an infinite number of collectible categories, and really bringing people together is the point. That's what people enjoy, and helping people understand that their private passion can be a social passion in the same way that they want. They don't have to go and learn technological details if their private passion about watches is about design or about the heritage of a brand. There's no qualifications to go to the meetup. It's helping people understand that you can go to the meetup and talk about that passion. You don't have to know the movement number of your watch to go. And I think a lot of what has happened in the past has made people feel that way. And so if we can create the right atmosphere as we grow the club and keep those things the same, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to be a global venture and have people telling us about their watches from all over the world. I mean, we've had people on our online events. A young fella from Saudi came along to 2, and he was just like, everybody in Saudi Arabia is obsessed with the high-end luxury watches, but I'm just a student, so I have my micro brands and I don't know where to go. And I'm like, well, thank you for finding us. Come and talk to us. And that's what we've had our first digital collector along in person. He only collects digital watches, vintage digital watches, and again, it's helping them, everybody, share that passion. So I don't see any reason it can't be a global organization, and I absolutely hope it will be.
No, absolutely. Well, from my side, I wish you all the success, but it definitely sounds you got the correct foundations already to get there. So brilliant. Thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you.
Wow, that's quite an ambition. Yeah, good luck to that, and I hope it all goes well. We have some questions from the audience, which I'm going to put to you. So the first one is from our mod and super fan, the Chili Badger. Do you hold the events in a big pub or hotel? If so, I like your style.
Yeah. So it's all been pubs or bars so far. Yeah.
Okay.
It's, again, as I said earlier, it's about if we scale a bit more and if different security challenges arise, we'll have to think a bit laterally. And I want to really think laterally because, again, we want to try new things. Hotels are actually a really interesting venue choice. I think we'll use a lot more hotels in future, partly for the security aspects of it, but yeah, and we're trying a brunch. We should mention in January we're trying our first Saturday brunch. People asked if we could do something on a weekend, so we're trying a brunch.
Okay. Is that in London?
Yeah, on the 14th.
Okay.
So we're gonna try Saturday morning, so people still got the rest of the day. Total experiment. Do come along. Obviously, we're not buying you brunch. You can pay for your own. But, we'll set it all up, and we'll do the same thing. We'll do talks and everything. But yeah, trying a brunch in January.
Excellent. So Chili's in the Brighton area. Have you got any plans to expand further out or down?
Well, we just have to have confidence that people want to show up. So if there's a group of people who are all like watch people and then know each other already in a town somewhere, they should. I'd love to hear about it because I can. More than happy to explain.
Okay. Sorry, and Ray Harrison as well. He's talked about the Hampshire area, South and Hampshire areas.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few people via DM about that. And again, we need to get a little bit better about our online advertising so that we know kind of how to test demand in different areas. Because it's still such early days, we don't have a good handle on that. And as we do, we'll do our best to try. Some of the retailers want us to go. Like there's this big place which I've never been to called Blue Water Shopping Mall that has loads of watch boutiques in. So there's already been conversations about doing an event down in one of those retailers, one of the boutiques there, or Bicester Village as well in Oxfordshire. So there are already discussions we're having about doing events. In terms of meetups, if anyone can persuade me that there's a good group of people, I'm very happy to explore it.
Okay, so contact Hamish, guys. Another one from the Chili Badger. Do you have and Max also follows up on this one in his question a bit later. Do you have a daily beta watch? And if so, which one is it?
I don't think about it like that. No, I have watches that I wear when I really don't want to think about them, like the Alpinist, because this is, going the wrong way. And this is my holiday watch, which is a Christopher Ward Trident in bronze from a few years ago. So the updated one of these has a much fancier dial. This is the cheap dial they put in at the first. And then I have my G-Shocks. This was the watch that broke my G-Shock duck and my large watch duck. The all metal. This is an absolutely fantastic watch. So if any of you out there have never tried a G-Shock, start one of these because it feels so fun and it is totally indestructible, being all stainless steel. And so those are kind of, if I was going to have a beta watch, it's those ones. The rest of my collection are a bit more delicate.
Okay. From a question from Whole Milk, kind of ties into your perfect event. Have you tried to get any of the big English watchmakers to events, i.e. Roger Smith or Peter Speak?
No, not yet. So as I've sort of been saying, like at the moment we provide the content, and so we're really going to continue to test what content works best, what the right levels are, what the right topics are, and then what we'll see as we're getting into a higher variety of events is when guests work. And one of the reasons to do this, which I think a lot of people might find interesting, is we're trying to not be what the retailers do already in their boutiques. And the reason for that is because we don't think those events serve watch lovers that well. When you have a big guest speaker, they, whether they're a watchmaker or they're some kind of ambassador or celebrity, they can be really interesting. I mean, I've seen quite a few fantastic talks, but they're not watch people. They're not about the watches. So we really want to make sure our events are the opportunity for everyone to really get their hands on a watch or try on a watch, or really learn about a watch and see something famous. And in terms of that, those two, the higher end stuff, we'll do that when we get there. Understanding what makes Roger Smith so special is actually quite a journey, really. I mean, he's super famous, and he should be, but actually explaining what makes Roger Smith so special and what makes his current production watches so special, it takes quite a long time, like to really explain it to someone, whether they're a novice or even just a collector of watches, and say. So we're not quite there yet, but I really hope to be there. Again, if people are really interested in us taking everyone through what made Roger Smith, and then what he does that makes him currently so special and his watches in such in high demand, I'd be absolutely delighted to tell that story. But that is a long story to tell.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah. So you could be doing your TED Talks in the watch world, basically.
Yeah.
Right. One last question from Max. He asked about your daily watch, which I asked earlier. But have you been affected by the rise in watch crime in London, seeing that your events are held there, or in general, let's say, as well?
No, we haven't at all so far. So fingers crossed. We never have a problem with it. But inevitably things happen. I have a slightly controversial view on the supposed watch crime rise. I'm not sure it's risen more than any other crime. I think the watch community is just much more aware of it, which is a very precise answer. But I think a lot of the crime is unfortunately targeted at people who don't live in London, tourists and summer visitors in the West End, which is really unfortunate because they might come from places where they never worry about that kind of crime, and they're shopping in these areas and they're huge victims. And I know there's been a huge rise in burglaries in the UK, and a lot of watches you see get stolen in burglaries, which is also really, really disappointing. And I can only say to people, well, I have a safe, and so if your collection gets past a handful of watches, you really need to be considering a safe. That to me just seems like common sense with a collection like this. And so I don't think I've been affected or our club's been affected yet. And I would say the same to any member who came along. If your collection is 2 very, very valuable watches, then consider a safe. If your collection is 10, 20 of a variety of values like mine is, that's still a really good reason to consider a safe.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Right, let's move on to those watches in the collection then. Do you want to go in chronological order or order of favourite? How do you want to do it, Hamish?
Yeah, I selected a few to tell a story. I feel really bad now about not getting the dirty. It must be the back of the safe, the Dirty Dozen watch, but I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about it another time, John. The first
sorry,
one,
me and Andy don't mind.
Yeah, they don't understand, Hamish. Sorry, they don't get it. They don't get it.
We don't have enough time to cover that one watch.
Yeah.
So
I'll have about 50 questions for you. We're here till tomorrow.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. We'll have a chat offline about it. Don't worry. Let them carry on with their stupid gold Cartiers. Don't worry.
Well, I've got something
first one then, please.
A few things, Andy. So this was the first watch I got, which I got for my 18th birthday. It wasn't the first watch I wore, but from my parents. So it's a Tag Professional from 2002. Very simple, and I beat the hell out of this watch. It is really scratched. I didn't take it off my wrist for any reason throughout my entire student days, and well into my 20s, and it survived. It had one service in 2008. which was quite a big service. They replaced quite a few parts after that treatment. But it's quartz, it's simple, it's a tag. It's great.
It looks sturdy,
so-
doesn't it? So when did you get this? How old were you? 18 when you had that?
18th birthday present, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So.
There you go. It looks good still.
Brilliant.
And then I, as I said, I got a JLC, but I can't show you that one because it's broken and doesn't have a strap. But the second vintage JLC I got was this one.
Ooh.
That's it. Oh, right there.
Yeah, they're just
Beautiful.
Lovely.
that's nice. What year is that, Hamish?
1950s, 55 or 6, I think.
Very nice.
So you've got a
Clean.
stats case,
Clean. Yeah.
beautiful dial, the dagger hands on so many watches of this era. And these, I always love telling people about these and showing these to people because these are extremely high quality movements, gold cases, and certainly for most times you can find one for under £1,000. There are countless examples out there from lots of different brands. They're a real charm. You don't have to spend a lot of money to buy very high quality Swiss watches. And then I kind of really got the JLC bug, and I ended up quite quickly getting my Grail watch at the time, which is this. So this is a Reverso.
Another JLC. Okay. Yeah.
And I wanted this for as long as I knew about it. So I actually had heard about this before I started collecting. This is from 1946. It's the original size. It's got the Art Deco dial. I'm just showing for those who don't know this watch. This is why it's called a Reverso. You can turn it over to protect the front of it when you're playing polo. The world's first sports watch. And unfortunately, I've got to say, I hardly ever wear it. It is quite fragile, and it runs fast even after a service. So it's apparently because it magnetizes really easily, which isn't surprising, but is a significant problem for watches like this from this period in the modern day. But a much more exciting Reverso in my JLC in my mind. That I
Sorry, what was this? Sorry, Hamish, I don't mean to interrupt. What was this? The story behind the Reverso? You just heard about it and you bought it, or what was the?
Yeah. So as soon as
when did you get it? How did you feel when you bought it? You know, the emotion behind it, because that's quite a nice piece.
Yeah. So I didn't. I bought it at Watchers of Knightsbridge auction, and I got really excited in a bidding war. So I paid fairly top dollar for it, but I was very, very happy with it. And then I started wearing it, and it was always fast. And after about a year, I got it serviced, and I got back from the service, and I wore it for a week, and it was still fast. And I took it back in, and I said, "This is fast." And he said, "Well, it wasn't fast when I gave it to you." And so we went, and basically the answer is it magnetizes quite quickly, and I don't have a demag.
You know, there is a solution. So I have a jumping hour, what runs a bit fast as well. I just set it a bit behind, and then it catches up to the right time. Once you work out how much it's fast by, you just set it. You know, that's my cheat code. Yeah.
And I mean, again, it's a Reverso, and it has this fun feature, but it was designed in 1932, and it's got a movement from the 30s. It's quite a fragile watch. I mean,
that's amazing.
Yeah, really nice.
And then I got this also at auction for less money than the Reverso, and this is the Futurematic. So these are JLC's one of their biggest secrets, because JLC collectors love them, but no one else ever heard of them. And it was basically their attempt to make a super duper automatic movement. The crown is on the back, and you can't wind the rotor. You can only wear it to wind it. And as a result, it has a clutch at the bottom that is designed to reserve 5% of the power, so that when you put it down, as soon as you pick it up, it'll start again. It also has a clutch at the top so that it doesn't get overwound. And it has a rotor that is mounted on both sides of the movement to prevent wear on one side. We're quickly getting technical. Most people will log off. The combination of all those features meant that the movement never made a profit. It was way too expensive for them to make. So they made them and sold them for a few years. This one is one of the rare 18 carat, and is completely symmetrical, and is quite large for its time. This is 1956.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a gem. And
So what the dials? It's not a chrono, is it? Because there's no pushers. What is it? Seconds and what?
power
what is it
reserve.
telling
So
you?
the power
Oh,
reserve.
power reserve. Okay.
And then there's this thing called a porthole dial on some of the later ones. The second half of the production series, they did these amazing porthole dials. So there's also this just really beautiful series of design you can collect in them, and a few interesting case shapes with the twisted lugs. But this one, talking about like falling in love with a watch, just the symmetry of this watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely captured me. The gold is patinated. I haven't polished it. This is the real deal. Slightly patinated gold. And yeah, this is a fantastic watch.
What year is that then? Sorry, Hamish. What year is that one?
I think it's 56 or 57.
Nice.
Unless I'm getting confused with all my other 50s watches, but
Yeah, it sounds like that you've got a niche for 50 JLCs, doesn't it?
it might actually be later. It might actually be 67, and it died because the end was near. So actually, I think it was later than that. I think it might have been 67. The next one I was going to show you is this, which is a great story about why you should go to watch meetups. So this is a Universal Genève, again a brand that vintage watch people love, or who know their chronographs love. And this is a unicompax, which means it has one subdial for the chronograph, just for the chronograph minutes. And I saw this at auction, and basically I went to the Time for a Pint meetup, and there was a Universal Genève collector there. He had about 8 of all different kinds from the middle of the century and a bit earlier. And I just loved them all. I was like, what is this brand? Oh, it's Universal Genève. It died. It's really famous for its chronographs. They were a huge brand in America, sold alongside Patek Philippe in America, and by Patek Philippe in America. So distributed by Patek Philippe in America, especially during and after the war. These amazing series of chronographs for about 30 years. Unicompacts, bicompacts, tricompacts, a space compacts. Lots of collectability, huge variation in just the variation in the logo. There's a website you can go to, and there's like 100 different registered logos. So a gem for collecting. And so, having learned all this at the meetup, I then saw this in an auction catalog, and I just bought it. So, and I love it. It's got blued hands, gold hands, blue seconds hand, blue subdial hands. The dial is you can't see it on here, but there's an amazing bacterial patination of the dial. So the dial has all these little spots over it, which is probably bacteria getting in there and just creating this really weird pattern on the dial you can only see in some lights. And that's the watch that really signals like my expansion. So I've been JLC, and then I realized there was just this world out there, and I should explore. And I'm so pleased that I did, because I still love that watch.
Wow. So a trend what I'm seeing is quite a few of the pieces you've been getting from auction, would you say, for vintage collecting? Because I'm massive into vintage, but so far I've been buying my pieces just from dealers who I know local. Would you say it's more opportunity at auctions than if you was to go dealers or like Chrono 24, for example? Do you think you can get a better bargain at auctions, or would you say it's more risk into getting sucked into a bidding war? How do you find it generally?
I think there are bargains at auction. If you're confident you can do the research, there's a lot of bargains at auction. And I think people underestimate how big the bargains can be. However, auction houses aren't required to authenticate the watch, right? So you have to remember that they're going to sell it regardless. There's very few times watches are drawn from auction, even at very famous auction houses, when it's very clear that there's something wrong with the watch to a lot of experts. So I don't want to say that to put people off. I just say that just because you're at an auction house does not mean that you should do any less research. In terms of getting excited, my simple lesson was not to go to the physical auction. I think in all future auction purchases, I'll just leave a bid online that I'm very comfortable winning at, and that'll do me. I did get a bit carried away, not for the UG, but definitely the day I ended up with the Reverso, I got carried away. I came home with 3 watches that morning. not planned. But I would definitely say, like, my business partner Ed got a JLC perpetual calendar in, like a Bristol auction online. There's a lot of watches that aren't spotted out there, and especially if you're if you have a particular niche, then you can really monitor the auctions and do quite well.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. No, thank you for sharing.
I guess I can go on and on. Of course, when you've got a collection you're enthusiastic about. I did want to mention the G-Shock again, but I kind of already said what I wanted to say.
Oh, tell us the story behind it. Where were you? This is your first one and only G-Shock, or you?
Yeah,
it's your first.
This is again an absolute classic. This was launched in 2018, I think. 2017 or 2018, they came out with relaunching the 5600. So again, for those not familiar with G-Shock, this is the exact same dimensions of the first one. So the idea behind these is they would relaunch the first G-Shock shape and size, but in metal for the first time instead of in rubber, and then with a modern module. So it's got solar power, it's got Bluetooth, all that gubbins inside the model. But it would be exactly the same thing and the same rubber bracelet design, but in steel. So with these little dimples and the matte and polished finishes. And I saw the launch, and I was like, I have got to go and check that out. That is like absolutely. I've been buying all these vintage watches. I used to wear a tag on a steel bracelet. I want to try it, and I literally got down there, and as soon as it was on my wrist, it was just like, this is amazing. So not even with the bracelet fitting, just this is an awesome value watch. It is completely unbreakable. And my excuse was, I need something to wear when I'm swimming. So that was the excuse that I had to instantly buy it. And for those again not as familiar with G-Shock, they are as tough as they say they are. People famously drop out of helicopters on YouTube now and all that. They're really great. These modules are solar powered with a 6-month power reserve, so you can leave it in your drawer or in a pocket for 6 months. That's what they say, but it's probably longer because it's Casio, so they've probably over-engineered it. And yeah, it'll last forever. We had a guy come down to our meetup in October, and he's a G-Shock collector, and he's collecting the first series, so he's got a watch box. He's only missing 2 of the first 13 in his categorization of what makes it first series, and his earliest one is still working. The module hasn't been touched, it hasn't leaked, it's still working perfectly. And G-Shock actually had to replace all the rubber because all the rubber perished on the first batch. So they did that for free, but everything else about the watch is perfect. So I say to people when people say, "Oh, you're the watch guy," I only ever want to buy one watch again. I'm like, it's dead easy. Buy a Citizen Eco Drive or a Casio G-Shock. Both are solar powered. Both will probably outlast you. We don't know because these are electronics that nobody knows how long electronics will live for, but there are still G-Shocks that work when they were built with 1980s LCD technology. So these ones will probably outlast you. So yeah, those are some highlights. That's what I thought I'd present, a bit of a journey. Recently, I bought,
perfect.
And I kind of buy into cheaper ones to show people what's out there. I mean, this is Popeye on a watch.
Is that the Bamford one?
No, this is Undone at Hong Kong.
Undone. Okay, right. Yeah.
Wow.
This is a lefty in bronze with the NH35 in, so super reliable.
Yeah.
And I just wanted a lefty in bronze, and I also used to love Popeye, and I thought, why not? What fun! So yeah, quite varied in what I'm happy to try. But yeah, that's my introduction to my collection.
Excellent. Can I ask you what your Grail watch is? What if you had one watch that I mean, obviously, mine is a 5517 mil sub, so I'm never going to own it unless I have a lot of money. But what's it doesn't have to be something. It can be something affordable. It can be something way up there. What is your Grail watch?
Yeah, it changes quite a lot because I'm in the privileged position of seeing so many watches now. I do this for a living. But at the moment, it's the Hermes Arcur de Lune, which is the moon phase complication with the two dials that rotate over the moons. So it's Hermes, the luxury French goods group.
Was that this year they released that?
No, they release a different version every year, so it's about 4 years old now.
Okay.
But they're limited in production because they're very expensive and it's Hermes, so everything's limited. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a very interesting moon phase complication. I just think it's very, very beautiful and sort of surprisingly clever at what it's doing. By moving the dial of the watch around instead of the moon, again, we're getting into sort of the depths of technical watchmaking, but most moon phases like this one, which is going to be really hard to see. This is the only moon. This is another JLC triple calendar. So the bottom is a moon phase. So for those who don't know, moon phases usually you move the little dial with the moon painted on it. It's very hard to see here, but there is a little moon painted on there at the bottom. And but this one, the Hermes one, moves the dials over the moon, which I just love as a sort of slightly strange complication.
That looks very Vacheron. That last one you showed us. I actually would have thought it could have been a.
Because guess who made the movements?
Oh right!
Well,
Wow!
I can't imagine. Extremely Vacheron. Yeah. Called the Vache. Yeah.
Every single triple calendar that you see with the day and the month windows there, and the calendar, the month, day of the month around the outside is this JLC movement. So Vacheron and many others from exactly the same time period, the end of the 40s and into the 50s. Yeah.
Okay, so my last question was going to be to the panel and to the people in the chat. What was their favourite? I mean, there's a lot to like in your collection. What was their favourite one in your collection? For me, I'll open the one before the Universal Genève. The Universal Genève was stunning. The Reverso was stunning, but the one before with the perfect symmetry and the two dials. But then once you showed me that Vacheron JLC, I think that one. Well, actually, it's a close one. This one or the last one you showed us. Those two just look absolutely amazing. Yeah.
This is funny because I bought this. This is what happened when I got carried away at the auction. To find a pink dial with a rose gold bezel in a watch of this era is quite unusual. So, yeah, that one is.
Whole Milk likes the Futurematic as well. Perfect symmetry. I'm sure that's what you wanted. So
my favourite is the one that's not brought with him. Sorry.
Well, I think you can guess mine. I'd imagine. Well, imagine you guys can. You can guess.
Reverso.
Any idea? Yeah, 100%.
Oh, the Reverso.
Yeah. Well, he's selling that. I'm sure he said he's selling that. So there you go. We can.
Oh yeah, the Art Deco style.
Yeah, have a chat. You stay in the back room, by the way, Hamish. Sorry, when we finish, we'll have a chat. That's cool.
Chili Badger like the Reverso as well.
Yeah.
So,
class.
Very classic watches. I'd really do like that.
They are good. Yeah.
That collection you brought there, lovely.
And is that all your collection apart from the other one? Have you got? Is that all your collection there? Have you still got a load more?
Oh no, there's a fair few more beside me here. Then the swatches are in their box because they're so noisy. You have to keep them tucked away.
All right.
And then there's but this is the one that gets the most compliments that I didn't show you because it just wasn't part of today's story. But this is a Breitling Top Time.
A vintage one. I'm guessing.
Yeah. This is 64.
That's nice. That I like that.
Gold plated. But yeah, this range of Breitlings surprises a lot of people and is an awesome part of their heritage. And again, really quite affordable as far as vintage chronos go. I wear this a lot.
Yeah, it's more understated than the the new ones with the color splash of
Yeah.
color splash on them. Wow.
Wow,
Okay.
excellent.
Shambhabasha loved the Universal Genève. Okay, so here you go. So guys, have a look at Hamish and Ed's website. I'm just posting it one more time.
Yeah,
I've
and if you're in
put
the
it a few
London
times out.
area,
Yeah.
sign up and get to one of the the club meets as well. It'll help it increase.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I should just say we've got the general meetup in January. It'll be a brunch. In February it'll be on the 6th, which is an evening again. But we've also we're just confirming dates, but we've definitely got Breitling again, Bremont again, certified pre-owned with Bouchera. Hopefully something, and hopefully quite a few. Seiko is now finding a date as well.
Ooh, excellent.
One thing I'd say about Breitling is that while others are really putting their prices up quite considerably, Breitling is staying kind of steady. They're coming up with a new ranges of watches. Some, to a lot of people's taste, some not. But I think there's a lot of value in Breitling now. I don't know if you would agree. I mean, is that your favorite brand anyway? You're saying, but I think Breitling is slowly becoming like a very good, not cheap, but a value, a bang for buck kind of brand right now.
I mean,
you
they've
agree with
certainly found their price point. Yeah. I mean, staying at 5.5, 5 to 7.5. I'd be surprised if they start pushing it. But we'll see, because with Rolex taking 10% pricing every year now, that's giving a lot of leeway to everyone else, rightly or wrongly, whatever you think about whether they should follow or not. That's what's happening. I agree. I think Breitling will say, well, we're having incredible success, so let's try not to screw it up.
Yeah, no, I think just slowly kind of creeping into everyone's sort of line of sight, I'd say, more so than before over the last few years.
Do you own any Amiga? Have you got any Amiga or any Tudor?
Oh, there's an Amiga.
There's an Amiga. Very nice.
Very nice.
This was my.
What's that one?
This is an Omega Genève, as they're known. I mean, not because
Genève. Oh, right, okay.
that's why everyone calls them, because they just wrote it so clearly on the dial.
Yeah, I can see that now above 6 o'clock. Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
Very, very accessible. They come in white, black, blue, burgundy, and there's rumours of a plum one, and silver, and blue. And so they made bazillions of them. so again,
excellent.
Time only, manual wine, great Omega movement in it. You can find, if you fancy something.
What year is that? Is that a 60s or something? 601 movement or something? Is it something like that?
72, something like that.
I've got similar. I've got
71
Amiga with a hand line movement in. Yeah, the great movements.
Yeah,
and 71.
And they're great even in the Omega Pantheon. I was chatting to a guy who came in. He's a watchmaker, so very well respected movement.
Right, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up. We could stay on for another 2 hours talking with Hamish. I'm sure we'll have to get the gentleman back again for a more in-depth chat.
Love to.
Certainly, absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, Palm, and thank you, Andy, as always, for making it an enjoyable show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We shall be back.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Don wants to say thank you to everyone. Yeah. Each and every one of you, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Right. We will see you next Tuesday.
Okay.
We will. Because we do Tuesday.
Thank you anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, John.
Good night,
thank
everyone.
you, Chili.
For the intro.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
Thank you, Critter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hamish.